watching Parker Success Academy with Dr. William E. Morgan.
Hello, I'm Dr. William E. Morgan, and this is Parker Success Academy, where we explore models of business success in chiropractic practices. Today, I have a very special guest, Dr. Bill Updyke. Bill, welcome aboard.
Welcome. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Updyke and I have been friends for many years. You're former president of the California Chiropractic Association. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice, Bill?
Sure. I've been practicing now for 35 years. I started in Southern California, where I grew up. I went to Cleveland Chiropractic College. And I spent about 10 years there running my own practice. And it was actually a group practice with several other chiropractors. We did have part of the time a part-time medical doctor, only for a short period of time, but we had massage therapists, and I think there were at the most maybe 5 chiropractors, but a very big, busy practice. Back when chiropractic was quite different, back 35 years ago, in California at least, people did not know what a chiropractor was. Now we don't really have to worry about that. What they did have, though, was insurance that covered us very well. So if you could explain chiropractic and what it did, and you could get through that, you were a good communicator, you were going to have a big practice. It was because people had insurance and you didn't have to have the financial discussion that you have to have now. So very different. Practice in Southern California, just family practice. About maybe 35% were motor vehicle accidents. I worked with 2 gyms. I actually practiced part-time in the gym. So a lot of workout people and just kind of a typical, you find your niche. And then, when you're married, it's a union, and you try to make joint decisions. And I got dragged to Northern California when my wife said, let's move to Northern California, because she was working for a startup in Los Angeles that Oracle purchased. And I said, well, I'm a chiropractor. I have a practice. I was planning on spending my life here. This is what I do. And she's like, well, I really want to go. And so she won. So I sold my practice, moved to San Francisco, took a lot of time off, enjoying the freedom that I had. And then after about 6 months of surfing and fishing and having a great time, my wife's like, hey, buddy, you got to do something. I'm like, all right. What I wanted to do was have an integrated practice in Northern California, like I had kind of going in Southern California. But come to find out, Northern California at the time was not very open to chiropractic. There was a lot of anti-chiropractic sentiment. So I ended up, I have a pretty good network of chiropractors. And in following up with Dr. Bill Meeker, at the time he was running the Research Institute at Palmer and Davenport. And I said, hey, Bill, maybe you have a part-time thing I could do. My wife's bugging me. I got to do something. I'm having too much fun and she's working too hard. And he goes, no, we don't have any research stuff, but they do need a clinical professor at Palmer West. And so I applied, got the job, ended up working at Palmer West as a clinician for 12 years. And then ended up here at Cisco. And so, and that again came about because of somebody that I knew. I knew the medical director, Dr. Pam Heimel of Cisco at the time. She has since left, and now she's the medical director at Disney. I still catch up with her once in a while, but the interview was very straightforward. It was a former student had passed along, oh, Cisco's going to hire a chiropractor, heard about it on Craigslist. Passed it along to several of us clinicians, and I thought, well, that's interesting. And I followed up with Pam, and I go, hey, here you're hiring a chiropractor, opening up a clinic. And she goes, yeah. She goes, if you know of anybody, let me know. And I said, well, I'm thinking about it. And she says, send me your CD right now. And that was my interview. So both of the times that I jumped ship, and I'm actually jumping again. I told Dr. Morgan earlier, I'm leaving to go to a VA position up in Santa Rosa, which is Sonoma wine country, a little cooler away from the fire actually area up there. And again, it was part of the network of how that came about. So anyways, that in essence, that is my path. I think what you'd like to talk about maybe is a little bit more about how this place works and the dynamics behind that. But if you have anything else, Dr. Morgan, you want to ask me before that, go ahead.
Well, there's a few questions, but it truly is. So as we're exploring different models of practice for chiropractors, we wanted to find out that you're the corporate chiropractor who works for a large corporation. So that's something we do want to delve into, but we'd like to also find out a little bit about you as a person. So can you tell us a fun fact about yourself? Something interesting that most people wouldn't know?
What most people wouldn't know, I don't know. I grew up in Southern California, kind of normal. Most people that know me know that I surfed a lot. I don't really surf much anymore. I body surf regularly. I'll tell you a fun fact. the most positive thing about COVID is that it's easy to get to the beach because there's no traffic. And so I get off work at 3:00 on Tuesdays and Thursdays and 2:00 on Friday, and I can make it to the beach in about 45 minutes, whereas before it was impossible, too much traffic. So I've enjoyed a lot more body surfing since COVID came along, and the skies are cleaner. So anyways, maybe that's a fun fact.
Surfing, I know you enjoy wine. That Santa Rosa has got to be pretty enticing for you as well.
Yeah, I one of the big issues with us moving is that I have several thousand bottles of wine, and how to move it and transport it and store it has become an issue because we're not buying a house right away. This will be our final house, so we're going to rent for a while until my wife and I can agree once again on. It's like we're going to get our last house. This is like it, and it's like we want it to be right, and we're Venus and Mars. We're trying. We're going to work it out for sure because we're committed, but it's taking a little time. So,
kind of explain your business model to us. You're in Silicon Valley, and you're in one of the biggest, tech companies in the world as their chiropractor. We're all interested in how that happened, and you just told us how you got hired. But what do you do, and what's the benefit to Cisco?
All right. So, basically, Cisco is a Fortune 100 company, very large company, going through a shift in how they're doing their business right now, going from a hardware network to more of a software-based network and a lot of software. So they're really making almost 180 return on their business model. But the reason we ended up here was because I don't have to explain to this group, healthcare in the United States is ridiculously expensive. And so they decided, being self-insured, and I can explain that if it's necessary, but I'll give briefly. It means that as a corporation, you can hire an insurance company to take on the risk and then pay your healthcare claims through the insurance company, and their rates keep going up and up and up and up. Or you can decide to go through part of that by taking on the risk yourself, using the insurance company to pay out your money, and they manage the claims. And that's what Cisco does with United Healthcare and with Cigna, and now with Aetna, and they also have a Kaiser plan. But in doing that, they still thought they saw this endless growth in their expenses, and they wanted to, number one, provide a better service to their employees, and number two, try to see if they could control some of their healthcare costs. So they decided to open up an on-site clinic. And theirs was the largest, biggest major clinic. Actually, Disney in Orlando opened about the same time. I've been to that clinic as well. They're about 20,000 square feet. We're like 25,000 square feet or so, big, large, and they're not very integrated. We're very integrated. And while I'm talking about that, so in the clinic here, we work with 2 physical therapists, 2 chiropractors. We have an acupuncturist, along with about 5 or 6 MDs. We have a mental health counselor, usually 2. We have 1 right now. We have a dentist. We have 2 optometrists. We have a vision center. We have a pharmacy. We have the lab, the X-ray. Downstairs, there's a full gym. Upstairs, there's a personal training gym that we have access to. So a lot of rehab, a lot of getting people that sit all day long to start to move and know how to undo what they've done all day long. That's what I find myself, basically, my current chiropractic role is certainly adjusting, getting people functioning well with all the joints that move, but a lot of unwinding. They're just stiff from doing this, and you end up having to work everything out and teach them how to do it on their own. So Cisco's interest was in, providing a great service. And they were recently voted the #1 company in the world to work for, not only by Forbes, but another 2 entities voted them the #1 company to work for in the world because they have a great people focus. They're really involved in a lot of social issues. And so, and the value of this clinic is then that patients come in and they're like, oh my God, I can't get care like this anywhere else. If I had planned a little bit better, we could have done a little bit of a tour. I can walk around, but sometimes I've done these before and I lose reception depending on how I go. But the clinic, it's concierge-like. It looks like a hotel when you walk in. The rooms look like a hotel room. They're very, very comfortable. And we get 30 minutes. In COVID times, we actually only see 1 patient an hour, but normal return visit time is 30 minutes. So we have plenty of time to talk about all their issues, to deal with their issues, and then to show them exercises, watch them do it, talk about that, and then get to know them. In a 30-minute visit, you really do have a lot of time. And the way that it works here is that I am an employee. I can't work for Cisco. That would be against law. It's practice, the Medical Practice Act, of which chiropractic has the same language in our initiative. We were licensed by initiative. If you get licensing, most of the time it's a law, but in California it's an initiative. But we can't work for anybody but a medical doctor or a chiropractor. And so when Stanford took over, because we've had several people managing this clinic, we certainly couldn't work for Cisco, but Cisco had a management company. You may have heard of Cerner. Cerner makes a big electronic medical record, big IT company in Kansas. They managed us first, and then they rebid it. Walgreens, which became Take Care, and then Premise Health. Premise is now the largest on-site healthcare clinic, managed the clinic. They rebid it. Stanford Healthcare won, and I actually still work for Premise because the way that Stanford is as a legal entity, they're a nonprofit healthcare organization, and it's a gray area whether we can work there. But they wanted us to work for the School of Medicine, which would have been awesome. We would have been the first chiropractors at Stanford, but legally there was a little bit of an issue. So anyways, Cisco is looking at this from a value perspective of providing healthcare, and they don't tell us what to do. They can't tell us what to do, but they do look at all the numbers, and I'll probably get to all the numbers. I can share with you because I get asked by places all over the place to come and talk about how this place works, and I get to share numbers. I can't actually put it out there in the world because it's proprietary. But anyways, we can talk about how successful chiropractic is, but I want to stop there and see if Dr. Morgan has any questions. Well,
it sounds like that by you being there, it provides enough of an advantage to be proprietary, to give them a strategic advantage over their competitors that they don't want to share the exact numbers of how beneficial it is.
Well, it's not really that. And I have to be careful here, but really what it is that nobody wants to think that their employer is looking over their shoulder, and all the information that they look at is all de-identified, because the truth is they don't know what individuals do. They look at it in aggregate. And so, but still, if a whole bunch of stuff gets out about what happens at Cisco and what happens here, then people might think that, oh, they're micromanaging us, and my manager might know if I actually have diabetes or something, which is not true at all. You can't, it's against the law. It would shut this clinic down if that happened, but they're just trying to be sensitive to what employees think. And and there are many clinics that do this, so Facebook and Google, and I mean, they all have clinics now. Go ahead, Bill.
So Facebook and Google also have chiropractic clinics in them?
Oh, there is not a clinic here in Silicon Valley that doesn't, because what I finished with is it's a competitive benefit. So if you go to work for any of these companies, people can choose from, and they rank them by salary, by benefits, by blah, blah, blah. If you don't have an on-site clinic and you're going to go and work at a place in Silicon Valley, it's a disadvantage. And so the startups can't do it. So what the startups do, because they're small, they'll bring a doctor of chiropractic in, bring in the portable table, hang out a couple days a week. They may bill their insurance. The people may pay cash. There were kids right out of school, boom, built up a business model because they were going to some of the healthcare events that the companies were doing, and also going to where all the healthcare employees were playing sports, and they set up a chiropractic booth and they turned that into a business, an on-site business. It's awesome. So here it's remarkable how imbued chiropractic is into the lifestyle of people in Silicon Valley. I mean, honestly, you can't do healthcare now in Silicon Valley and Cisco did start it without having chiropractic involved. It's really, really cool.
Well, we live in a boom town here in Dallas. Businesses are coming from California. It's a boom town. So for a young chiropractor out there, what advice would you give them for approaching a corporation that just moves from California to Dallas, which is happening every day?
Amazon's opened up a big center there, and they're going to have one of the big management companies in on-site clinics is Crossover Health. Crossover has the contract to put the healthcare into all of the clinics that are going to be all over in Amazon's service centers, which there's, I don't know how many people in these things, but thousands. And Crossover leads with chiropractic, their biggest thing. And so Crossover started by a medical doctor. What I love is their person in charge of physical medicine. He's a program manager, is a chiropractor, former student of mine when I was a clinician. Great guy, Dan Lord. I can tell you a really, really great story about it, but I'd probably have to reveal something. He started at Facebook.
Okay.
I can tell you what not to do, but let me go back to what to do. So what I believe, and maybe this is not what students like to hear, but what I believe is that when you get out of school, there's a lot you don't know. And I actually think you're better off going to a place in an office where you might treat a lot of people and learn how to become a good adjuster. And I'm certain your clinical skills are amazing when you graduate, particularly at any college that Dr. Morgan's going to have anything to do with. I believe that 100%. But when you're applying a physical force to a body and you're talking to people about influencing their health, that's a skill that takes a little bit of time to learn and hone. And what I don't want people to do is get into a situation where they might lose for the profession and have it not work out. So I think first thing you out of school you should do is try to find a hookup where you can treat a lot of people, work in somebody's office. Certainly you don't get reimbursed, but get your skills down. Then once you do that, it's the Wild West out there. If somebody has a large number of employees, they all are going to have a lot of musculoskeletal problems. And now it's becoming very topical to think about what do you do about it. You've got a Rosti down there. You've got all kinds of people that are going into companies that are doing things. And it's really a better way to do healthcare because since the payer is literally the employer, they could work with you directly or indirectly. You could bill their insurance. They could come up with lots of different ways for you to work with them. But I think probably the best thing to do once you're looking at a business model, even if you open your own office, is to reach out to companies and talk about once you understand the lay of the land about healthcare benefits work, to talk with them about showing up as a chiropractor.
So you're kind of telling people you're not really ready for prime time when you graduate. Get your skills underneath you. But if you've been in practice for a few years and you want to go to Southwest Airlines or Amazon, or now Tesla's moving to town, then go to there and maybe go to the sporting events, go to their health fairs.
Well, let me back up. Those companies are already owned by their benefits people. Big companies like that, they have benefit consultants that don't work for the company that tell them how to do their benefits. Your niche is going to be the very low size, medium to small companies, and start there. But you actually can't knock on their door and show up. What you want to do is you want to network. Like everyone's told you forever and ever and ever, go to the Chamber of Commerce, get to know people. And then start to look around and see if there's healthcare events that employers are putting on for their HR staff, and see if you can go there and just visit, and then maybe even have a booth at some point, or just try to get a presentation to them about what chiropractic is, and go that route. But you can't really knock on doors because you're going to waste a lot of time. They're not going to want to know you. But if you go out into an event, I'll back up. The way I met Dr. Pam Heimel at Disney was I was very involved when I was at Palmer in the local healthcare delivery. I was chair of the Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce's healthcare committee. I was involved with the Silicon Valley Leadership Company's healthcare and a lot of their leadership stuff. And I knew that Disney was getting an award Cisco was getting an award for their wellness stuff. I went to the event. It was in Sacramento. I introduced myself. We chit-chatted. We stayed in contact. And that's kind of how I got it. But it was because I went to a healthcare event where they were giving awards to companies for healthy things, and I networked there. And you have to, like, you're a chiropractor, your life is about talking to people about health and what we do and getting to know them and being a decent person to talk to and staying in contact with those people. And so that's what I would recommend.
Well, as a CEO, I get contacted every day by 20, 30 people, direct emails, they try to call in. They're all screened. I never even open their emails. But like you said, people I've had contact with, even if it's on LinkedIn or other events I've been to, those are the people you'll go ahead and rub shoulders with and go, you know what? Well, it's like you and I, we've been friends for years. And I thought, this series would be great to have Bill Updyke come and explain this. So it's our network. Your Rolodex is basically your network out there. And a Rolodex, for those, it doesn't even exist anymore, but basically your contact list, your contact list is basically your network. So Bill, what is your definition of success?
Pretty much getting up and looking forward to the day. I think if you're excited about your day, and there's a lot of things that go into that. I mean, I like to go to work. There are parts about work that are like a little bit of a drag. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's patient so-and-so or whatever. But if you look at it from you're going to serve people and you get to talk with people and you get to help them, and make sure that for you spice your life with what's good for you. I like exercise. I like playing in the water. I like spending time with my family. I like cooking and entertaining and the wine part of it. And I have a couple of different wine groups. I've got good buddies that we're in, and, you know, we do stuff. And so I think it's important for success to be able to look at the days that are coming and go, oh, that's going to be a good day. Oh yeah, that's a good day. Oh, look at that. And just know that within your day, you're fulfilled from whatever it is that makes you fulfilled, from what you're doing physically to spiritually to, you know, in your where you live, in your whether it's your work or your region. And just make sure that you're living a life as you go on that feels rewarding. And that's up to you. It's not up to anybody else. You make every day rewarding. So
I know most of the people I've interviewed are big readers. Do you have a particular book that you would recommend to our listeners?
You know, I went through all of the reading about the person that I wanted to become around the time I was in chiropractic college. I think that I'm pretty happy with the person that I am right now. And so I read now, sometimes I read technical stuff. I read a lot of papers, and you can look at my desk and tell I read a lot of papers because I don't even read them online. I print them out and read them. But I also read for pleasure, and I also do things for pleasure. And so when I was going through things, I read a lot of different people. I read the book Think and Go Rich. I read an awful lot of stuff with, you know, Tony Robbins stuff, with Wayne Dyer's stuff, a lot of stuff about what's inside you and how do you create happiness. That's really what the moral of anybody that was going into like the self-help part of life was. And that got me to kind of the happy person that I am today. And so I don't think there is one book. I think everybody has their own path. But if you look at your life as this arc of things, when you're just like when you're a chiropractic student, you're starting as a student, you're going to have this arc of what you do. And if you think about it, you'll probably grow through your arc, and it's goal setting. But if you also think about all the other things that you have in life, and you learn about, because I don't do goals as much anymore. They're in my head. Like I used to write them down because I was told, write them all down. What are your you know, income goals? What are your personal goals? What are your physical goals? What are your spiritual goals? Yeah. And then you think about all that stuff because I'd never thought about it before. And then after decades, it kind of gets into your head and you're like, oh yeah, this is my path. And I'm clear in my mind that the reason why I'm going that I came into this position and that I'm going into my next position is because I projected, like, where do I want to be? I want to kind of be closer to wine country. And I want to be in a little bit slower paced life because I have a pretty hectic life right now. My daughter's off in college, although she's back thanks to COVID, you know, because whatever. That's the college experience now. You get a college experience sitting in bed on your computer. Like, it's very strange. But I believe that the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, and maybe, you know, it's the same with Dr. Morgan, I wouldn't think it's that different. You think about where you want to go in life. And there's many different books about goal setting. So there isn't one book because everybody has a different path. But I think that if you don't think about you, just like you're thinking about your career, and make a plan for your life, you're kind of stuck with what you get.
Yes. Well, for me, my first 13 years in practice, I practiced 1 year, 13 times. And basically it's, you know, I was doing the basic, chiropractic practice that we all, you know, from the coaches we would get back in the 80s, and realized then I got picked up, went to Walter Reed or Bethesda Naval. I go, you know, this is kind of a big deal. I better start really delving into the science and being current with the evidence. And that's where I started growing from that point on. So it is important to be moving forward, not just repeating the same year over and over for 35 years. So you've been in practice 35 years. What year did you graduate from Cleveland?
85. I graduated December of 85.
Okay, so I graduated from Palmer West in September of 85 too. So it's, yeah, we practiced about the same amount of time.
Same.
So what was a pivotal moment in your journey?
I'll tell you, for me, I have spoken, just as you have, Dr. Morgan, in a lot of what I now consider to be pretty big venues. And for me, when I got out of practice, I don't seem like it, but I was on the super shy side. I wasn't a good speaker. It scared me. But the pivotal moment for me was that I would go to speak and I'd be scared. I'd be invited to the Chamber of Commerce and I'd have to do a presentation, or I volunteered at the American Heart Association, and it scared me. And what I realized is that if I want to do what I want to do, which is help people to live the life that they want to live, that's pain-free, and their organ systems, musculoskeletal, brain, everything's working well. That's what I wanted to dedicate my life to. That speaking was part of it. That it was part of my job. And when I realized, the pivotal moment when I realized that, oh, this is part of my job, then I got over my fear of speaking, and then I actually focused on trying to learn what a good speaker is and learned about it. But that was a pivotal moment for me, because I mean, I've been on the podium speaking. My 15 minutes of fame had to have been when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor, and he was working on healthcare reform in California. And the mayor of San Jose, Chuck Reed, and the leadership group's CEO, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was speaking, and I was speaking representing the chamber. And there's 7 film cameras, and we're at this company, and lights are flashing, everything's going off. And on the 6 o'clock news, I led the 6 o'clock news. They could have picked anybody else in that lineup, but they picked me because I didn't talk too much. I had 3 bullet points, and they were kind of revolutionary for a Chamber of Commerce to be supporting healthcare reform. But I had worked with the chamber, and the chamber thought, yeah, this is the right thing to do. We need to support Governor Schwarzenegger. And so anyways, that was it. But I became comfortable in that moment, and I spoke for the profession and everybody else, because at some point I realized that this is my job.
That is key, that speaking is our job. And when my wife's a chiropractor, Claire, who you know, and when we set up our practice, we joined Toastmasters, and we entered speaking contests, and we just poured ourselves into speaking. For 7 years, we became the president of the organization in our town, and embraced it, that you need to be a speaker. If your voice isn't heard, then your message is not going to get out.
That's right.
Now, we at Parker talk frequently about the 10X concept, something that you do in business that gives you a 10X return on your effort. What's something in your life that you've had a 10X return upon your effort or your investment?
So, absolutely, it's my network. And so, because when you look at practice, it's different. I did that for 10 years. That was a very small part of my career at this point. And so I'm looking at and I do think that many of you might start in practice, but I do think the practice of the future is an integrated practice where medicine finally says, okay, we're gonna stop the chiropractic hate. We're gonna stop that. And maybe chiropractors actually have a point, because we know people love chiropractors. That's very clear about all that. And I think that there will be more and more opportunities for that. So my 10-time return is definitely on network. Like if I put something into somebody and I meet them and I follow up and I make sure that we have a conversation and we chit chat and I try to make it entertaining for them so that I'm kind of fun to be around, and we create maybe a little event that we might do. A lot of times it has involved wine. That's worked for me. But to me, my 10-time return is what I've put into nurturing the people that I know, because everything that I've got right now is because of people that helped me, that are part of my network. So my 10X by far is absolutely my network. Is networking.
Could you leave us with one takeaway point for the audience, and then also share any contact information you would like to share with our audience?
Sure. Contact information, you can look me up. I'm on LinkedIn. If you're a student at Parker and you reach out to me, I'll certainly link in with you. Feel free to, you'll find my cell phone. It's 415-279-9471. I don't feel like it's a problem giving it out, because no one really bugs me. You know, if somebody has a question, like I get calls from people that have a contact where they want to do an on-site thing. I'm super happy to help out. So the one thing that I think I'd like to say is pay attention to these, because the thing that's been important for me as a chiropractor, when I wasn't a chiropractor and I sat down, I'd never been to a chiropractor, and I talked to a chiropractor about being a chiropractor, what I was told was that you'll be able to tell what the person's problem is by feeling them. And I thought, oh, that's super cool. That's awesome. And then when I went to school, I didn't really think I could tell everything that was going on by feeling them. But at Cleveland, we practice palpation, feeling every little thing that you could. We used to, in the old days, we had telephone books. They're this thick with pages, and we'd put a hair in there, and we'd put a bunch of pages over it. We'd feel around. We'd have a contest. Who can feel the hair? And I know what the literature says. It's a little bit iffy about whether we can feel things or not. And all I'm saying is it's a sensory thing. And if you practice with your vision or your hearing or your taste or your smell or your sensation, you will get better over time. And if you pay attention to what you feel, I think you'll have a lot of breakthroughs on how you help people as a chiropractor. We can certainly watch and we can see how they move, but to be able to feel and then relate that back to, you feel that tight spot? Yeah, and it hurts. Yeah. People, you're communicating with them. And if you say, oh, yeah, your knee dives when you do that squat, and they go, oh, that's interesting. But the touch thing, it is the glue to our profession. And so pay attention to your hands, use them, feel with them, think about what you're feeling, and talk to patients about what you feel. And when you put your hand on a patient, do it with love. Like, just make it a nice, think about how it feels when you put your hand on people. And I think that's what I would want to leave everybody that's going to be a chiropractor with to think about. Well,
you are chiropractors. So Dr. Bill Updyke, thank you for joining us today at Parker Success Academy, and thank you all for joining us.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching another episode of Parker Success Academy with Dr. William E. Morgan.